Hey, Kyle here. Um, I'm starting to learn that when you work 70-hour weeks, it becomes difficult to also maintain a full-time professional fine art practice as well. So I've had to, do some serious thinking, and for the first time ever, I've hired a studio assistant. Come on out. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Here you go. Come on. All right. Here it is. Yeah, it's a robot. Humans are useless. Alright, so I got, that looks like 2 stepper motors. A power supply. That almost never arrives when you buy really cheap stuff from China. Micro USB. That's gold plated. Wow! Metal bars. Laser cut plastic pieces, random hardware, and I'm guessing this is the brain. Yes, it is. Oh, this is gonna be fun. There doesn't seem to be any instructions. This is going to be interesting. Alright, I was wrong. There are instructions, they're just online instructions. And they're actually somewhat vague, where they will kind of show you an image, and then they tell you what the parts are in the bottom corner. Of course, some of the measurements included on the instructions don't coincide with the measurements of the parts they actually send you. So for the most part, close enough counts. A lot of this wasn't too bad. The first area where I got a little confused was... Oh yeah, right here. So they show you a bunch of steps on how to put together one of these things with the stepper motor. And then the very next one shows you 2 of them, so you'd assume, oh, I just do the same thing twice. Although when you start to look at the picture, you start to realize some of it doesn't really line up, like this stepper motor is put on backwards from this one. Does that matter? It doesn't tell you. These offsets, they don't seem to be included on this side. Are they included on the other side or just left off entirely? It doesn't tell you. Just as an FYI, those offsets are for the brain of the thing, so there's no offsets at all on the second one. The only thing is the stepper is put on, rotated 180 degrees from the first one. It does give you instructions for. So that was a little vague, but still figure outable, and it was actually a really easy assembly. It was only like 15 minutes invested up until this point. Oh, again, the part with the rods was also confusing because the rods are 2 different lengths, and nowhere does it tell you if you should be using the long rods or the short rods. I ended up having to page up all the way to the very top and look at the picture of the finished thing just to kind of realize what ones go where. First thing they show you, all right, that's how the hardware should look when it's assembled. And then put the belt on it. How? Or again, this thing, the photo they've included really, it almost makes it look like the band goes all the way across and the screw somehow fits in the middle. Of course, that's impossible. If you show a picture from a top-down angle, it would make this much more clear. I don't know why they didn't do that. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. When you're putting on this end piece, it doesn't really tell you which end is up. So make sure those 2 little holes are on top of the screw that holds it into the rods and not below it. Otherwise, you're going to have to disassemble everything, which means that really complicated putting the belt on stage, you're going to actually have to do twice if you put that on upside down. So you don't want to do that. Trust me. The cords they give you are pretty much exactly the length you need. Like, you've got less than a centimeter of space to spare, really. So if you put that motor on backwards, you're not going to have enough length to connect those cables. So make sure you get those adjusted properly. And the brain. My brain actually came with a pretty gnarly chard mark right there. So I ended up having to replace the entire damn thing. These parts here, they're more or less just to keep the wires from getting in the way of the gantry head as it's moving back and forth. Close enough counts with these parts. That's all the instructions they give you, and I found building this thing to be a fair challenge. It was pretty easy. I'd say easier than Meccano, but harder than Lego. There were those two spots where I really had to pause and think about it and compare it to photos of the end results. So a little more clarity in the instructions would be greatly appreciated. Of course, it's nothing compared to the hassle that is dealing with the software. I ended up having to use an alternative T2 laser, or the developer of that software is on the forums and is pretty helpful. So I couldn't actually get their included software to work, but his does, after I replaced my brain. So yeah, that's my robotic studio assistant. Finally, human creativity can be automated. Resistance is futile.